Oh, are we on? Hey folks, Will here again with Happily Ever Outdoors, and welcome to another Saturday Sit Down. In this video, we're going to talk about a really important topic, and that's when life gets in the way of living. So keep watching. Now, this is a topic that I've thought about doing for a little while now because I think it's something that really pertains to all of us, regardless of what your outdoor passion is, whether it's camping, hiking, backpacking, bushcraft, maybe you're a hunter or a fisherman, whatever. We all tend to struggle with maintaining balance in our lives. And generally speaking, at least in American culture for the most part, we always tend to lean towards the side of staying too busy. Of course, some of it really can't be avoided. We've all got responsibilities. We all have things we've got to take care of. And sometimes those get in the way of us actually getting out and doing the things we really love. And if you're like me, generally that revolves around getting outside, right? Kind of unplugging and getting away from society a little bit and going out and exploring. Now, I know in my own life, and I'm sure it's true for a lot of people, there's kind of a few key things that tend to get in the way. And this isn't necessarily like an exhaustive list, but these are just kind of like the three big ones that jumped out to me. So number one are jobs, right? That's the one thing that we can never seem to get away from. Unfortunately, if you want money, if you want to be able to pay your bills, you're going to have to work for it. And unless you are fortunate enough to be in a position where you can live like a self-sufficient lifestyle, like homesteading or something like that, then there's going to be a job that you've got to report to. There's going to be a boss that you've got to answer to. You're going to have to show up for your shift every single day, and that sometimes keeps you away from the outdoors. Now, there may be some of you watching this video who love the outdoors, who are fortunate enough to have a job where you get to be outdoors, enjoying it all the time. Maybe you work for the parks, maybe you're an instructor, something like that. And if that's the case, that's awesome. Hopefully one day I might be in a position like that, and I feel like I'll be a lot happier. But for right now, I work in an office every single day. And in a lot of ways, it goes so contrary to my nature because I want to get outside. I want to explore. I don't want to sit inside four gray walls staring at a computer screen every day. But unfortunately, right now in my life, that's just where I'm at. That's what I've got to do. That's what I've got to do to pay the bills and take care of my family and keep moving forward. Also, sometimes my job requires me to work longer, kind of unpredictable hours. Sometimes I have to work on the weekends, so that can make it a little harder to plan bigger trips too. But one of the things that I've kind of learned to help me get through those times and kind of maintain my sanity is to don't be afraid to take just smaller trips, or just take a trip during the day to a local park, go for a short walk, get what you can get in. Don't feel like that's like quitting or giving up just because you don't get to plan these big giant adventures every now and then. You've got to be happy with the smaller adventures too. Now, one of the little things that helps me out is there's actually a small park between where I work and my home, and so sometimes if I had a particularly stressful day, before I come back to the house, instead of bringing that back to the house, right, bringing it back to my wife and my kids, I'll take a stop at that park, take a quick walk through the woods, and that sometimes kind of helps me to get my head on straight. Another important thing to keep in mind is to find that balance. I know some people, especially if maybe you're self-employed, so you're really invested in your business and you work a lot of extra time there, or maybe you've just got a good job that pays you really well when it comes to overtime, things like that. Stop and prioritize and make sure you're not delving yourself so deep into chasing after that money, right, that you don't allow yourself that time to kind of exhale and get outside and put your mind and your spirit at rest. So job is definitely a big one. I know a lot of people struggle with that. I know a lot of people, it kind of tends to eat up their life. So how about you? What do you do to find kind of that balance between your job and your personal life, and to make time to get outdoors even when maybe your job is demanding a lot from you? Number two, and this is also a really big one. In fact, oftentimes number one and number two seem to be in direct competition with each other, and that's our personal responsibilities. As we all know, the pressures of life don't stop as soon as you clock out from your job, right? We've all got personal responsibilities. We've all got family, whether you have, a husband or a wife and kids, or maybe it's just your extended family, your brothers, your sisters, your mom and your dad. Either way, if we're going to have good relationships with those people and we're going to take care of those people, that's going to demand some of our time too. One of the things that makes this tricky for me is because there's a lot of maybe bigger trips, right? Bolder adventures that I would love to do. But I've got, my family to think about. And with my work schedule, the pressures that puts on me, it doesn't leave a ton of time for me to spend with my kids as it is. So when I'm planning out those adventures, I've got to take into account everyone who's along for the ride, and I got to make sure it's not a hike that's going to be so long or so demanding that I'm just going to be having to, yell at the kids and drag them through, because you want it to stay fun, right? You want it to be something that you can all enjoy together. And while that can be a little challenging sometimes, one of the great things about that is it kind of allows you to still fulfill those personal responsibilities, to spend that time with the people you care about, and you can get outdoors at the same time. And I think the more that you do that, whether it's your spouse, your kids, your extended family, then they become more passionate about it, and then they get motivated to do it. And it's something that's really cool that you can kind of share and you can grow and you can learn together. A little side note on that though, every now and then a little solitude is an important thing. I know for me, sometimes just getting out, just me and my wife without the kids, it's amazing how much quicker you can get a hike done, how much further you can go when you don't have that extra responsibility, right? And then there's other times where, I just need a little time to myself to get out, to get a little bit of solitude, to kind of recharge and reflect. And a lot of times if I allow myself that occasionally, it allows me to come back as a better person, right? It allows me to be more focused and more in tune on my priorities and all that good stuff. But I'm not going to lie, personal responsibilities is a tough one to balance, especially when you might have a job that's really demanding already and your hours are limited. Just trying to figure out kind of how to make that all work and to take care of everyone while still taking care of yourself. So how about you guys? What are your tips and tricks? How do you, involve people you care about in your outdoor activities, and how do you just make that time fit into your busy schedule? Lastly, another one I know that a lot of people struggle with can be their health. This isn't something I really complain about all that much, and I don't really think I've ever spoke about it on my channel, but I've actually had a ongoing problem with my knees, really both of my knees, but my right knee in particular. Just some different stuff going on. There was, I think, some kind of a small injury that happened a number of years ago that maybe didn't really get diagnosed at the time, and now I've got some arthritis going on and stuff. It's nothing too major. I don't think I'm at the point of having to get surgery or anything, but they've had to do some injections and things like that, and I'm doing a lot better now. But that's something in the past that could be a little bit of a limiting factor for me. There's certain hikes, whether it's the distance or just how rugged the terrain is, that it could be pretty tough, when you're going up and down really steep rocky areas, kind of, one wrong step and then my knee would be kind of shot for the whole rest of the trip. Another good example is my wife. She actually just had to have a hip surgery this last year because it was like an ongoing thing that was giving her problems. They went in there and I think there was a little bit of like a bone spur thing going on and just a little bit of tearing in there, so they had to clean that all out and all that. Thankfully, she's recovered pretty well from that, and she's getting around pretty good. But before the surgery, when she had that ongoing pain, that was a little bit of a limiting thing for her. And of course, after the surgery, that even made it more difficult for a while. So going back to kind of the family responsibilities with the kids and trying to get everybody out the door, you can imagine how that all kind of compounds together. But I'm sure there's folks watching this video who probably have some more serious conditions, some health problems going on that might make it really hard for you to even get out there and go on a hike. But I think kind of the important thing with that is just to not give up. You might not be able to get out and enjoy the outdoors exactly the same way that you're used to. Something happens like, you get into a motorcycle accident, that can completely change your mobility and your ability to get out there and do certain things overnight, right? And I know something like that can be a terribly frustrating thing. My dad went through something along those lines in his early 20s, and it completely changed his life in that way. But whether it's a more minor thing or a more major thing like that, again, you just can't give up. You gotta get out there. You might try to pick up a new hobby. You know, maybe going on those super long backpacking trips just isn't something that you can do. But maybe section hikes you can do, or maybe shorter day hikes is something that you can handle. If you're really limited in your ability to walk long distances, you know, maybe it's time to focus more on camping, or maybe bushcrafting, or maybe you could pick up something like kayaking, for example. But unfortunately, I've seen some folks who really have a passion for the outdoors, and then something goes wrong with their health, and then they just don't get out anymore, and it just makes them miserable. You can see it. And I think when you're struggling with something like that, you know, and all of the frustration and the anxiety and even the depression that can go along with that, you know, losing that thing that you love, getting outside and experiencing nature and exploring at the same time, can just make it so much worse. So I just want to encourage you, if you're in a position like that, try to be creative. Try to come up with something new, maybe that you can do that your physical limitations don't get in the way of. And I also want to say, if you know somebody who's like that, take some time, be an encouragement to them. You know, stop by while they're recovering from that surgery, or maybe be the one to tell them, come on, let's go for a hike. You know, and it might be just a short hike, and that's all that they can handle. You know, and maybe something that's no problem for you to do, but be there to be that encouragement and to be that support for them. Now, if you guys got a story you'd like to share related to that, we would love to hear from you. Maybe you went through an injury or a surgery and you had to go through that struggle of recovering and getting back out there and getting your strength back. Or maybe you've got long-term stuff that you're dealing with. How do you work around that? How do you still manage to get out and enjoy nature? How have you maybe adapted, done things differently so that you could get out there? We'd love to hear from you, so please go ahead and drop that in the comments below. Now, before we head out, I didn't forget to share with you guys our featured small outdoor content creator for this week. This is going to be a good friend of mine, Dan Human. I'll go ahead and throw up a bio that he sent in on the screen for you guys so you can read through that. But he's a really, really great guy. He's got a YouTube channel. He's also active on a lot of other social media. So of course I'll have the links to all of his stuff in the description below. And I encourage you guys to check him out. If you like his YouTube channel, the kind of videos you like to watch, go ahead, why don't you subscribe, throw him a comment, maybe a couple likes. But he's a great guy. He's got a lot of experience, taken a lot of trips outdoors. He's also involved in search and rescue, as you saw in his bio, and he's all about his kids too. So he's definitely somebody who's worth checking out, worth getting to know. He's got a lot of knowledge to share, and he's just a great person to be around. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and this topic has been helpful. If it has, we would love it if you'd give us a thumbs up. But I just want to leave you guys with this thought. Don't ever let life, the thing we think of as life, just our jobs, our responsibilities, those daily struggles, kind of that daily grind, don't let that get in the way of actually living. Don't go through life just going day to day, just punching the clock, just staying on autopilot, and just grinding it through. You've got to take time to really live. And if you're like me and getting outside and enjoying nature and learning new skills and just seeing new things, discovering new things, if that helps you to feel alive, and if that's something that you can share with the people you care about, you need to do it, because that's what it's really all about. So thank you guys for your support. We appreciate you showing up and participating in the Saturday Sit Down. Until next time, stay happy and stay outdoors.